The palace walls trembled with unspoken fury as Princess Anne, the no-nonsense workhorse of the Windsor clan, slammed the door on her nephew, Prince Harry's desperate plea for intervention. It was a move that echoed through the corridors of Buckingham like a thunderclap, underscoring the widening chasm between the Sussexes and the firm. At the heart of this familial fracture lay the escalating IRS probe into Archewell, the Sussexes' beleaguered nonprofit, now mired in allegations of financial impropriety that threatened to topple their carefully curated empire. But the blows didn't stop there. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's unyielding chief, had just delivered a devastating uppercut, axing a $20 million deal with Meghan and demanding full compensation for what insiders called wasted investments in a sinking ship. This wasn't a subtle fade-out, it was a public execution of partnerships gone sour. Sources close to the royal family revealed that Harry had reached out to Anne, known for her pragmatic resolve and disdain for drama, hoping her influence could shield Archewell from the IRS's prying eyes. After all, Anne had weathered her own storms with steely grace, emerging as the monarchy's unsung hero. But her response was swift and unequivocal. No. "She's not getting involved in their mess," whispered a palace insider, speaking under the veil of anonymity. Anne's loyalty is to the crown, not to wayward relatives chasing Hollywood dreams. The refusal stung, amplifying Harry's isolation as the probe intensified, painting Archewell not as a beacon of benevolence, but as a murky maze of misallocated funds. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just as the IRS sharpened its focus on Archewell's tax filings, Netflix pulled the plug. Sarandos, ever the strategist in an industry where billions hinge on trust, cited ethical breaches and compliance failures as non-negotiable red lines. The $20 million slash wasn't mere penny pinching, it was a calculated strike to recoup advances poured into Meghan's stalled projects, including a lifestyle venture that promised empowerment but delivered delays. "We're seeking compensation to protect our stakeholders," a Netflix executive confided, their tone laced with frustration. This partnership started with promise, but ended in pitfalls we can't ignore. What sparked this cascade? Leaks from within Archewell's operations pointed to a pattern of blurred lines, donations funneled through opaque channels, expenses that straddled charity and personal gain, and deductions that raised eyebrows in tax circles. The IRS, tipped off by discrepancies in public records, launched a probe that delved into everything from executive perks to grant distributions. Harry's appeal to Anne was a last-ditch gambit, banking on familial bonds to navigate the storm. But Anne, with her packed schedule of royal duties and zero tolerance for scandal, saw it as a liability. "She's focused on real work, not bailouts," the insider added. As the news rippled outward, social media ignited with speculation, turning the Sussexes' woes into a viral spectacle of schadenfreude and scrutiny. This unfolding drama wasn't isolated. It wove into a tapestry of ambition clashing with accountability. From Montecito's manicured estates to London's stoic palaces, the fallout exposed vulnerabilities long whispered about. Archewell, launched with fanfare in 2020 as a force for good, now faced accusations of being a facade for self-serving schemes. The Netflix deal, once hailed as a $100 million coup, crumbled under the weight of unmet deliverables and mounting suspicions. Sarandos's decision sent shockwaves through Tinseltown, reminding all that even star power bows to fiscal integrity. And Anne's rebuff. It signaled the monarchy's final severance, leaving Harry adrift in a sea of his own making. Ted Sarandos didn't mince words when he greenlit the termination. In a terse internal memo that leaked faster than a Hollywood blockbuster spoiler, the Netflix CEO outlined the rationale. Material breaches in ethical and financial standards. The $20 million deal with Meghan, centered on her vision for a series blending wellness, advocacy, and star-studded cameos, was halted mid-stride. But Sarandos wasn't content with a clean break. He demanded compensation for every dollar sunk into pre-production, scripting, and scouting, costs that ballooned amid endless revisions and absentee oversight. Insiders painted a vivid picture of the unraveling. What began as enthusiastic boardroom pitches in 2023 devolved into frustration by late 2025. Meghan's project, tentatively titled Empower and Elevate, aimed to spotlight female trailblazers through intimate conversations and lifestyle tips. Netflix poured in funds, expecting a hit akin to their docuseries successes. Instead, they got stalled shoots, script overhauls dictated via late-night emails, and a glaring lack of hands-on involvement from the Duchess herself. She'd approve concepts one day, then demand total rewrites the next, a production source revealed. It was chaos, and the bills kept piling up. Sarandos, renowned for his ironclad grip on Netflix's empire, had seen enough red flags. Audits uncovered overlaps between Archewell's charitable claims and Netflix's expenditures. Expenses like travel for research trips that doubled as personal vacations, or staff salaries partially offset through non-profit deductions. "We can't be complicit in anything that smells off," the executive stressed. The demand for $20 million wasn't punitive, it was pragmatic, covering advances for unproduced episodes and compensating for opportunity costs in a cutthroat streaming war. This move echoed Netflix's past purges, like ditching underperformers during the 2022 content cull. But here, it carried a personal edge. Sarandos had initially championed the Sussexes, praising their unique perspectives in press releases. Now, with shareholder eyes watching, he pivoted to protect the brand. Leaks suggested heated Zoom calls where Sarandos laid out the terms, repay or face legal escalation. Meghan's team, caught off guard, scrambled for damage control, but the die was cast. The broader industry watched with bated breath. Hollywood, built on fragile alliances, now questioned partnerships with high-profile figures whose baggage outweighed their buzz. Sarandos is sending a message. Ethics over egos, noted a rival studio head. As compensation talks loomed, the Sussexes' silence fueled rumors of deeper financial strains, tying back to the IRS's relentless scrutiny. At the epicenter of the storm sat the IRS, their probe into Archewell gaining momentum like a freight train barreling down the tracks. Launched in mid-2025 amid whispers of irregularities in the Foundation's filings, the investigation zeroed in on a labyrinth of transactions that blurred the boundaries between philanthropy and profit. Archewell, registered as a Delaware nonprofit, reported revenues exceeding $10 million in recent years. Yet critics alleged much of it cycled through donor-advised funds, vehicles like those from Fidelity and Vanguard, that obscured true origins and uses. Sources familiar with the probe described a pattern of questionable deductions, luxury travel billed as humanitarian outreach, administrative costs swallowing the lion's share of donations, and grants that barely met the 5% asset distribution threshold required for nonprofit status. It's not outright fraud, but it's skating on thin ice, one tax expert opined anonymously. Allegations included misclassified expenses, where Archewell's production arm intertwined with charitable activities, allowing double-dipping on tax breaks. For instance, funds earmarked for Netflix collaborations were allegedly offset as donations, inflating deductions while minimizing taxable income. The probe wasn't born in a vacuum. Public filings from 2024 revealed discrepancies. Millions inflows from anonymous donors, yet outflows skewed toward salaries, including hefty ones for Harry and Meghan, and events that spotlighted the couple more than the causes. Whistleblowers, possibly disgruntled ex-staff, tipped off authorities, leading to subpoenas for records. They're digging into everything: bank statements, emails, even travel logs, the source added. Potential penalties loomed large: back taxes, fines, or revocation of tax-exempt status, which could cripple Archewell's operations. Harry's outreach to Princess Anne stemmed from this panic. He hoped her clout, perhaps through discreet channels, could mitigate the fallout, maybe even leverage royal connections for leniency. But Anne, ever the realist, viewed it as a quagmire. "She's not touching American tax issues with a barge pole," the palace insider quipped. As the probe escalated, it cast shadows over the Sussexes' entire portfolio, linking financial opacity to their Netflix woes and amplifying calls for transparency. Social media sleuths pored over filings, unearthing ties to influential backers whose contributions raised eyebrows. Was it self-funding disguised as altruism? The IRS's methodical approach promised no quick resolution, leaving Archewell teetering on the brink. Princess Anne's refusal hit like a cold front sweeping through the Sussex camp. Harry, reportedly via a private call in early 2026, sought her counsel, or better yet, her advocacy, in staving off the IRS storm. Anne, at 75, remained the monarchy's backbone, logging more engagements than her siblings combined. Her ethos: duty over drama. Harry thought family ties would prevail, but Anne's priority is the institution, the insider disclosed. She politely but firmly declined, citing her aversion to entanglements that could tarnish the crown. This wasn't Anne's first brush with family friction. She'd navigated her own children's scandals with quiet resolve, always putting service first. Harry's plea, laced with desperation, clashed with her worldview. She's seen too many royals falter from poor choices, the source noted. Whispers suggested Anne harbored reservations about the Sussexes' post-Megxit path, the media deals, the tell-alls, the perceived monetization of royal ties. She values hard work, not headlines, they added. The refusal exacerbated Harry's isolation. Once the spare heir, he now stood outside the fold, his appeals falling on deaf ears. Buckingham Palace issued no comment, but body language at recent events spoke volumes. Anne's stoic demeanor amid the buzz. Family dynamics, already strained by Oprah interviews and memoirs, fractured further. It's the end of any reconciliation hopes, opined royal watchers. Anne's decision rippled beyond personal ties, influencing public perception. It signaled the firm's distancing from Archewell's troubles, protecting the monarchy from collateral damage. As Harry grappled with rejection, the focus shifted back to Montecito, where the couple faced mounting pressures without royal lifelines. Flashback to the heady days of September 2020. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's dramatic exit from royal duties, dubbed Megxit, promised a bold new chapter of independence and global impact. Archewell Productions burst onto the scene as their flagship venture, a media and philanthropic powerhouse designed to harness storytelling for compassion, equity, and change. Netflix, eager to capitalize on their star power, swooped in with a much-hyped multi-year deal reportedly worth up to $100 million, positioning the couple as visionary content creators who would deliver documentaries, series, and inspirational programming that resonated worldwide. Ted Sarandos himself praised their unique perspectives and global storytelling vision in glowing announcements, framing the partnership as a win for progressive narratives and streaming. Early outputs generated buzz. The Invictus Games documentary showcased Harry's commitment to wounded veterans, while the couple's own series offered intimate glimpses into their lives post-royals. Archewell's nonprofit arm, registered in Delaware, intertwined charitable goals with production ambitions, attracting significant donations from high-profile supporters and tech philanthropists. The foundation promised meaningful grants to aligned causes, positioning itself as a force for good beyond mere celebrity. Yet, cracks appeared almost immediately. Projects stalled amid creative shifts, budgets ballooned with repeated revisions, and deliverables consistently fell short of expectations. Insiders now reveal that the issues extended far beyond typical industry growing pains. Structural ambiguities in Archewell's setup invited scrutiny from the start. By 2024, public tax filings exposed troubling patterns. Revenues in the millions contrasted sharply with expenditures, heavily skewed toward administrative overheads, travel, salaries, and events that seemed more promotional than philanthropic. Grants remained modest, often tied to causes that conveniently spotlighted the Sussexes themselves. Netflix, initially enthusiastic, began internal audits of joint expenses, uncovering overlaps where production costs were allegedly offset through charitable deductions, travel for research that mirrored personal trips, staff expenses padded under nonprofit umbrellas. These weren't isolated slips, but recurring themes that eroded trust. Harry's royal cachet, once a golden ticket, faded into tabloid fodder as the couple's hands-off approach clashed with Hollywood's relentless pace. Princess Anne's pointed distance mirrored the broader royal family's retreat, viewing the Sussexes' ventures as increasingly risky liabilities that threatened institutional reputation. The empire, constructed on charisma, media savvy, and lofty ideals, now buckled under the weight of unmet promises and growing demands for accountability. What started as a triumphant declaration of freedom had morphed into a cautionary tale of ambition outpacing execution, setting the stage for the current cascade of severed ties and investigations. The polished veneer of Archewell hid a far messier reality, according to a chorus of former staffers and collaborators who, emboldened by recent scandals, have begun speaking out despite lingering NDAs. High turnover wasn't just a statistic, it was a symptom of profound dysfunction. Over 15 key employees departed in the span of 4 years, many citing the same toxic blend: erratic decision-making, absentee leadership, and a culture where credit was claimed but responsibility rarely accepted. It's like working in a perpetual storm, one ex-staffer confided anonymously. Meghan would micromanage single words in press releases or social captions, demanding endless tweaks late into the night. Yet she'd vanish when big-picture strategy needed attention. Harry's involvement followed a similar pattern. Impulsive mood swings drove sudden pivots, leaving teams scrambling to firefight without clear direction. Projects morphed overnight based on whims, exhausting resources and morale. Netflix collaborators echoed these frustrations during joint efforts. Production crews described the Sussexes swooping in for carefully staged photo ops, 15 minutes of glamour shots, then gone, while delegating the heavy lifting to underlings who received little guidance or appreciation. Echoes of royal-era complaints resurfaced, including past bullying allegations that painted a picture of environments where staff felt overwhelmed and undervalued. Social media amplified these whispers, with anonymous posts and industry forums dissecting the bosses from hell dynamic. Former aides recounted a workplace of constant second-guessing, unfinished initiatives, and zero sense of accomplishment amid the chaos. You pour your soul into something, only for it to be rewritten or shelved on a caprice, one lamented. The rebranding of Archewell to a broader philanthropic umbrella struck many as a desperate evasion tactic, shifting to a collective structure that obscured detailed public disclosures and hid questionable allocations from regulators and donors alike. These insider accounts reached palace ears through mutual contacts and media leaks, reinforcing Princess Anne's resolve to steer clear. Why inherit that level of chaos when her focus is duty and results? A source close to the royal family remarked. As the IRS probe gained traction, more voices emerged, chipping away at the carefully curated image of visionary leadership. The human cost was stark: burnout, eroded confidence, and a revolving door that left institutional knowledge in tatters. What began as whispers in Montecito corridors had become a damning chorus, exposing the gap between public persona and private operation. The scandal detonated across social media like wildfire, with hashtags such as Archewell probe and Sussex grift trending amid a torrent of mockery, outrage, and forensic dissection of tax filings. Online sleuths pored over every line of Archewell's 990 forms, highlighting discrepancies in donations, expenditures, and donor-advised fund flows that fueled speculation of opacity, or worse. Former donors, once drawn by the couple's star power, publicly distanced themselves, wary of association with an entity now labeled a visibility vehicle rather than genuine philanthropy. Comments flooded platforms. Faux royals finally exposed, one viral post declared, while others laced sarcasm with pointed irony about Meghan's past role in Horrible Bosses. Hollywood absorbed the shockwaves with caution. Ted Sarandos's decisive actions, slashing the deal and demanding compensation, served as a stark warning. Even A-list partnerships wouldn't shield ethical gray areas or financial red flags. Industry insiders noted a shift towards stricter compliance checks, with producers admitting that high-profile celebrity ventures now carried heightened risk assessments. Sarandos just set the precedent. No more tolerance for smoke and mirrors, a rival executive observed. The downgrade to a first-look arrangement, reported in late 2025, underscored Netflix's pivot away from lavish guarantees toward more controlled bets. Royal commentators lauded Princess Anne's steadfast refusal as prudent institutional protectionism. The firm prioritizes stability over sentiment. Harry's deepening isolation sparked rampant speculation. Divorce rumors swirled, though close observers dismissed them as premature, noting the couple's shared bubble of mutual reinforcement amid adversity. Public sympathy, once substantial post-Mexit, evaporated into cynicism over perceived entitlement and grifting. Broader implications rippled outward. Calls for tighter nonprofit regulations gained traction, while streaming giants reevaluated celebrity deals in an era of shareholder scrutiny and transparency demands. The Sussexes' continued silence only amplified the noise, inviting endless conjecture about their next moves, legal defenses, desperate rebrands, or quiet retreats. As revelations piled up, the backlash solidified into a narrative of overreach meeting reality, turning what was once a glamorous Hollywood royal crossover into a cautionary spectacle watched by millions. As the IRS probe grinds on and Netflix's claim hangs like a guillotine, the Sussexes face their nadir. Anne's rebuff seals familial exile, Sarandos's cut severs Hollywood ties. Archewell, once a dream, now a cautionary tale of overreach. Penalties could cripple. Fines, status loss, reputational ruin. Donors flee, projects stall. Yet, in this fracture lies truth. Ambition unchecked breeds downfall. The royal facade crumbles, exposing entitlement's cost. How long before total collapse? The clock ticks, unforgiving.